This is the A to Z podcast. Expert insights on leadership, business, real estate, investing, and growth.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. Today, we're going to talk about a special topic, which is EB-5 investor visa. And I have with me nationally recognized business broker and one of the top experts in EB-5 investor visa, Tom Crumpton. I'm going to bring in Tom. He is a CCIM and also the founder of Business Acquisitions. Tom, thank you very much for coming. I know you had a vacation. You just returned it back. I can imagine how much your plate is full, but you dedicated this time to talk to us and explain about EB-5 visa. So I want to appreciate you for coming here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Got the chance to take a nice vacation for a few days, and now I'm back to work and ready to go.
Yeah, that's one of the advantages of having your own business. You can take vacation whenever you want and wherever you want to go.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Every professional has an origin story. I have one and everybody has. What's your origin story? How did you start business brokerage? What made you to say, you know what, I want to be a business broker?
That's a good question. There's a little combination. I had no idea what business brokerage was when I got my first license. I was 18 and nobody was going to let me sell their business at that point. I was getting out of college and the interest rates were, prime rate was over 20%. So I did a little selling and then went into the corporate world and did a couple of those 4 and 5 year stints where you get promoted, and they kept promoting me when we moved back north. And I had a nice place on the water in Florida. That didn't work. And then I ran into somebody that I was looking for, something I could do forever. And I said, "What do you do?" He says, "I sell businesses." And it just sounded good. I had a finance degree. I've done a lot of selling in my life. So it worked. And I've been doing it now for over 30 years.
That's awesome. Awesome. Sometimes you don't know what's going to trigger you and what invites you to a particular profession. And I'm glad that you chose to become a business broker because you have had so many impacts in this field. Tell us a little bit about your hobby. Whenever you're not business brokeraging, whenever you're not traveling to do business, what do you do? What are some of your hobbies? At least tell us one.
I mostly ride motorcycles on really good motorcycle roads. Wyoming, Colorado, been up and down the Pacific Coast Highway, been down to Rio Grande. I think last time I counted up 30 some states on a motorcycle. So that's really my alter ego. I used to golf. I still get some scrambles, I do a lot of charity stuff. But if I have 4 or 5 hours on a day when it's nice out, I'd much rather be on a motorcycle.
Awesome, awesome. I've never been in Colorado with a motorbike, but I've heard a lot of stories, interesting stories, how beautiful it is. Would you please paint for us what it looks like to ride in Colorado?
Some of the places on is Colorado, Wyoming, Yellowstone. There, you can't describe it. You have to see it. And then in other parts of it, it's beautiful, but it's also scary because there are no railings. It's straight down if you miss the road. The road's only 1.5 car lengths if you're lucky. But there's places in Montana, and anybody who's heard about Yellowstone, there's places that don't have names to them that are even more impressive. So it's just luckily that I can get to see these kind of things.
All right, awesome. I'm just curious. Some of the audience may be curious. Whenever you are traveling, taking vacations, riding bikes, do you also do business? If somebody reached out to you, call you, if there is a business? I know I have some colleagues who tell me that, hey, I don't do any business. I turn off my camera. I turn off my cell phone. I don't do any business. But I have also some friends, I'm like them, who may take some calls, who may text, who may do business. What about you?
Well, I've got somebody running the company, right? I don't work in my business. I work on my business. So when I'm traveling, I can take away and not get on the phone. I don't have to call anybody back. I don't do brain surgery. So if somebody sends an email or leaves me a message, I can generally have my operations manager handle it, or I'll get back to them, the next morning, because the further you go west, you have a little bit of a time difference, right? You have 1 or 2 or 3 hours. So 6 o'clock in the morning in California is already 9 o'clock on the East Coast. So you can catch up that way. And, with people helping you run the company, I'm able to do that.
All right, let's talk about EB-5 visa. I know I have a lot of people who have interest in EB-5 visa. You've done this for many years. You have helped a lot of foreign investors to invest to the US market. What is EB-5 visa, especially people who may not know about it? And why is it powerful for foreign investors?
The EB-5, the advantage of that is when you're spending $1 million or $800,000 in some areas, you can buy a business, you do an investment. There's different requirements. I don't want to get too far into the weeds. And it's kind of like you move to the first of the line versus some of the other, the E1, the E2, the EB3s. There are different other visas. This one is, if you're qualified, we will help you move to America and let you and your family stay here. That's about the best way to describe it.
All right. So some people may have this question, which is, okay, what's the U.S. going to benefit? And earlier, I was talking to you about this. The United States, every country has its own policies, incentives to attract foreign investors. So what is in it for the United States when somebody comes to invest into the United States?
When they want to come here on it using EB-5 or one of the other ones, step one is to introduce them to an attorney, an immigration attorney, so they can double check that person's background is not, there's nothing in there that will disqualify them, so that, they want to make sure before they start spending money that what they do, what they've done historically, they qualify, that they can non-monetarily be in the program. And once that's good, then they start going forward with the different size and the different money. And while we have, as America, we have those numbers, the million, the 800, every country also has their own policies. So sometimes you have to work around their treaty while at the same time you're working around our regulations, which again is why you want the attorney involved to make sure everything gets done right.
All right. The other question that may come to people's mind is who qualifies? What kind of requirements are there for somebody to have access to EB-5 investor visa?
There's two levels there. One of them is 800,000 investment. One of them is $1 million and 5,000, just a little over $1 million investment. There are some qualifiers on how many employees you need to make or how many people, how many jobs. Other than that, if you have the money and you've got a clean background, you qualify. And the idea is, again, to get them with the attorney so that they can start that, because it's not a simple thing. It's easier to goof up than it is to do right if you're doing it alone. You can come over on a visa, call it a visitation visa, right? That somebody just wants to come over and look around a little bit. Well, some countries, you can come over on a certain kind of visa and you can stay. You can run from A to Z until you're done. Other ones you have to go back, wait a certain amount of time, and then come here using the correct visa, if you will. It gets complicated.
So if I understand it correctly, I know lawyers, there are immigration lawyers who are qualified to explain the EB-5, especially from immigration perspective, from law perspective. But if I understand it correctly, there are two types of route that people could take. The one which is direct investment, which requires the investor to be active. Another one could be passive, which requires investing in regional centers. There are so many regional centers around the country, like in California, here in Florida, New York, and so on and so forth. Would you mind to give us a little bit background about these two approaches in terms of getting the visa?
I'd really rather, if somebody's interested, not get into the weeds and have that more individual, because the regional, as you call it, can be different around the country and different qualifications in each one. And you hate to get too far down that first road and be in the wrong information. If you go through this country says this and this country says that, would be here forever. But the big thing is one of them's 800,000, one of them's a little over $1 million. And you need to sit down with the attorney to make sure that what you have fits within your country's treaty. It's not just that qualifier. That's why I really don't want to go too far down that road.
All right, good to know. I know this is a little bit challenging for us. We're business brokers. We're trying to help people buy a business, and we help them find the right qualified business once they finish the immigration part of the process. I'm just giving them a little bit background in terms of one of them is active, which requires them to involve in choosing the business and the property they're going to buy based on the qualification. And another one is indirect, which is passive, and so on. But you're right. They need to reach out to a lawyer based on different requirements for them to know the difference, plus which one is right for them based on their involvement and interest.
Right. And we're part of that. We'll introduce them to the attorneys, but what we have at eXp Commercial is we have boots on the ground in over 30 countries. So we have people there to speak their language and can begin that process. And then while they can, it's called running the two trains down to two sets of tracks, at the same time, they're working on the legal part. But the first formal approval or informal approval doesn't take a lot of time. The attorney can say yay or nay, or here's what you need. That's when we start looking for the businesses for them, whether they're going to be involved or passive. And since we can sell in almost all 50 states, if they have families, friends, anybody they know that's already here, we can find something close to where they want to be in America.
Which means eXp has other brokers. I want you to expand on that one, which means we brokers. I'm in Florida, you are in Atlanta, but we have thousands of other business brokers around the world because eXp is a global organization. Would you give us an example or two about such kind of collaboration between you and someone outside of the United States without mentioning their names or specificities?
Sure. Now, so somebody in England or France or Trinidad, Tobago decides I want to move to America, and we get that email and we hook them up. We talk to them, go through some basic questions, and we hook them up with the attorneys. Once the attorney says yes, what they're looking to accomplish, they can do. They have the financial, they have the background. Then we'll start with all of our hundreds and hundreds of business brokers and our thousands of commercial brokers start finding a business that would fit that person. I've done we've done a lot of examples and working within the treaties. Sometimes you have to get a little fancy, and there's different ways where you can actually use the qualification and borrow money using the SBA. You can actually do small business administration bank loans to help with the purchase.
Oh, you're telling me that in certain cases, especially if there is a treaty between the United States and that specific country, there is an option on top of someone investing their capital, they may get loan from SBA. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. Can you give us a little bit background in terms of how it works? Like,
without getting too far weeds, it kind of goes like this.
Okay.
Start the process.
Yeah.
And we have a closing on a business. Depending on the treaty, they're quite not Americans yet, and they're quite not permanent residents yet. But once that closing has happened, they get their green card / residency. Again, I don't want to get too technical. And then at that point, the lenders can actually do an SBA loan. And if there's a lot of assets, they can do conventional loans because they are now legal to be in America.
All right. Awesome. That's a powerful opportunity for those foreign investors in these countries where the United States has bilateral treaties. I want to talk about a little bit about some mistakes that have been done by foreign investors that disqualified them or that dragged their process.
How much
Would you tell us some of these myths and
time do you have?
mistakes?
Well, people think they check with an attorney in their country that's not an immigration attorney, family friend, whatever, and they don't understand immigration. They don't have the information, so they get bad advice. They come over here fully planned on going through A to Z, but they come over on the wrong visa because their treaty is different than somebody else's treaty. Those are the big ones. Thinking that they can sneak through the system. No, this is belts and suspenders, folks. We're allowing people to come in and become permanent residents. They get, there's some double checking to it. The biggest ones are thinking they can do it without the attorney. They can do it without us. The saddest one was everything looked good on one, and we came in afterwards to find a business because they bought something that was not right. It was, had all the red flags. If this is too good to be true, and it wasn't something that any broker was representing, and somebody was just trying to cheat a foreigner, and they almost lost their money. But so that one stopped. Their attorney called us, said help. They're through the process, so we found them something that fit, and it all ended up working out down the road.
Yeah, thank you for sharing this mistakes that have been done. This is a huge investment for someone, also someone investing into another country, and this process should not be muddled and messed up. And that's why we're here. We could be able to connect them with the right immigration lawyers and help them with the right people who could help them, support them, different professionals, corporate lawyers or CPAs, stuff like that. I want to summarize what you told me, and if in case I missed something, maybe you can help me. One of the mistakes would be before they even start the process, which is choosing their friend, colleague they trust. It could be from the diaspora, or it could be a lawyer in their home country who may not understand the immigration laws of the United States. That's before they even come or before they apply. Another one is using a different visa. Maybe they come here as a visitor or for whatever other visa, and they may want to start that process while they are already in the United States, and it may not work for some countries. They may have to go back to their countries and start the process from there. And the third one could be working by themselves without using any broker or any lawyer, and they may buy something which is not qualified, or use the wrong broker or the wrong lawyer, and then that may mess up their process, which means before they come, how they come, and what they do once here in the United States. Am I missing something, or do you want to elaborate in some of these?
No, you hit them all. You summed that up very, very well. It's the mistakes that the people all over the world aren't that different than people here, right? People actually go out and they buy commercial property, they buy a business, they don't get the right attorney, they don't have a broker, and they end up messing it up. Spending that kind of money with futures on the line, that's not the time to save pennies. That's the time to hire really good, competent experts so that everything does go correctly.
Awesome. Let's talk about some success stories. Some people may find them in these stories that you are willing to share. I know I don't expect names or some specificities in terms of who they are, but maybe you can use their country or their specific generic situation. Can you tell us some success stories? It could be this year or last year. It could be some years back, especially if you have a story or stories that could be a good example. It could be both one success story which went very well, perfect, or maybe something that didn't go well, but you helped them here and there, and they could be able to recover, so that people could be able to see how it's done, and also how you've been very resourceful to help them amend the mistake that they've done.
Well, one that comes to mind was a nice couple, very, very smart man, ran half the world or a good chunk of the world for 3M. They had decided to come to America, and they were down the road looking at a business, and it was a convenience store, something that they could, participate in if they wanted to, not too easy to find help with and whatnot, but they didn't have enough people. There weren't enough jobs. So we ended up moving them from that after they came to us because they realized they'd gone down the road too far. And we ended up setting them up with a franchise of a landscaping service.
Before you go, if I am correct, I think there is a certain number of employees that should be hired for a business. I know it could be different from country to country, but I think there is a number of employees that you need to create those jobs before you qualify. Am I correct?
On the EB-5, the number is 10.
Okay.
But you don't want to get all the way too far down the road on that, right? If you have 9, you can promise that there'll be one more. You can hire one more person. Different visas have different employee or different job levels. So I don't want to, somebody says, "Oh, they don't have 10." That's not a disqualifier. If you like the business, there's different ways you can make that work.
Yeah, that's why it's very important to hire the right broker and the right immigration lawyer, because they could be able to show you some other ways to be creative within the bounds of the law, within the bounds of the regulations. You could be able to help them be creative and find ways to qualify. So thank you for clarifying that. Please continue. Sorry for interrupting.
On some of these creativity, and that's the one gets important. So they have money, right? Now they have enough jobs, but their treaty only allowed them to spend so much money and invest so much money. The country restricted how much they could put in. So they basically bought the business, leased some of the equipment, and then once everything was final, they bought the equipment out. There was like a 2-step process. You have to get a little bit creative sometimes, because while we're welcoming people to come here that have been successful and have money, some of the countries don't want those people to leave. So there's some restrictive things. They can have money. Yeah, you can write that, but you can only invest this much. Well, an owner's not going to take 20%, right? And so you have to figure out how to make it work.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I had a conversation. I don't want to mention the person's name. They came from a good space. I reached out to them. Hey, this is a golden opportunity for foreign investors in your country. They could diversify their capital by investing into the United States. And this person pushed back, telling me that I'm not promoting this. I don't want capital to come out of my country. I understood from where they're coming from, genuinely concerned, but my point of view for them, maybe you can correct me or improve this. My response to them was, look, I encourage a lot of investors, American investors, to invest to, for example, in my country, Ethiopia. There are investment opportunities. There are private equity funds and other funds who are interested to diversify their portfolio, to put their capital into different markets. They invest into Asia, South America. This is one of the growth strategies they use, which means putting capital, deploying capital to another market. And I told him that as much as I encourage American investors to invest to different places, I'm also happy to help people from other countries to diversify and invest to the United States. I don't see any drawback in this, and I don't think people who have less money could be able to deploy their capital and erode their country. I don't see that, because it requires minimum of $800 or $1 million, which means somebody has to have some enough capital at home, wherever they are, before they expand and invest to the United States. I try to show him that, but I understand why countries, they don't want to let their people to invest unrestrictedly. And I didn't know this. I thought these are people's opinion. Hey, I don't want to send my capital somewhere, but it's good that you mentioned, because prospective foreign investors, they need to also figure out the local law, how much they are allowed to deploy capital outside of their country. And I'm glad you mentioned that.
No, that's just one of the things you learn over time, and we've done this a while.
Yeah, yeah. In terms of your stories, do you have any other story you want to share? It could be a success story, or it could be a stumbling, which could give them some ideas on what to do right and what not to do right.
To do right, talk to us. We'll answer some questions. We'll have a nice conversation. There's no cost to that. And then if it sounds like it's going to qualify, we'll introduce them to an immigration attorney that has experience in that country. We'll hook them up with somebody from EXP in that country. So if they have something they need to sell, right, they have an expert that can help them get that money. We'll hand walk them through it. As far as stories of oops, there's a lot of those. I prefer the ones where it went oops good. And we've done a lot of that where they didn't spend all the money up front. They bought the business, leased all the assets, if you will. And then 2 or 3 days after that, they closed on the SBA loan that we've pre-done ahead of time and buy the assets. For example, a construction equipment company, you can buy the business and lease all those millions of dollars of equipment, and then 2 or 3 days later, buy the equipment.
Yeah, these are some of the creative ways on how to invest in the United States. Just for people to have some ideas about some of the benefits of investing into the United States, would you tell us why somebody should invest to the United States, why the US market is very advantageous for foreign investors?
Okay, you're saying investors. I'm thinking business ownership, and not just you can be passive, but actually move here, bring your family, and live in America. And that seems to be something more and more people are wanting to do, because there's a lot of Europe that is going in a direction nobody wants to be part of. So so the people interested in coming here is now increased.
Yes, I see that as a top reason. I talked to some people from Canada too, very close to the United States. I remember someone who wanted to have EB-5 investor visa to invest to the United States, coming from Canada. And this is one of the reasons they are saying, I don't like the way things are done here. It could be different reasons for different people, depending on where they are in life and in the situation they are in. They want to come to the United States. Some of the reasons that I give people is, first of all, the United States is a market-oriented, which is a capitalistic market-oriented economy where people are incentivized, encouraged, and there are a lot of incentives. EB-5 is one of the incentives for people to be creative, innovative, to create jobs. And also the United States has one of the top property laws that protect properties. And also there are many advantages in terms of institutions, systems, technology that invite and also incentivize people to consider to coming to the United States and invest. Let's talk about how we could serve people who are interested in EB-5 visa. We talked about we could help them streamline and give them the A to Z kind of service to them, well beyond just helping them as business brokers. If they have to choose between some other brokers from other brokerage and us, what are some of the advantages that we bring to the table to interested parties?
I don't even think there's a close second, right? One, we operate in all 50 states. So no matter where somebody wants to move, we have people there that can help find businesses of whatever size. We have boots on the ground, people in over 30 countries. So wherever they live now, we can have somebody meet with them, help discuss it in their language, and discuss selling any assets they have, right? Give them valuations of what they have that they may need to sell when they come here. And then once we get that information done, refer them to the immigration attorneys that we have experience with. So it's soup to nuts. It's like talk to somebody in their country, and after the introduction, and then they know who to talk to about getting an estimate of what their assets are worth they need to sell. Then with the immigration attorney, they start the paperwork. We start on the other end. So everything just flows all the way through. And one day they start with us, the next day we're closing the business that they're buying. Not the next day, down the road. I'm just saying we can handle everything soup to nuts. No other commercial brokerage has a business brokerage this large. Nobody else is in 50 states, and nobody else has people in over 30 countries.
Yeah, these are really great advantage. Over 30 countries and over 50 states, we have a boot on the ground, and also we have strategic partners, immigration lawyers, CPAs, and so on. One of the things I love whenever
national lenders can help with some of the funding and financing.
Exactly, because there are creative ways people could be able to raise capital to complement their initial capital, and we know loan brokers, and we can connect them with financial institutions to get that kind of support. And also in terms of helping them buy the properties or the businesses, and we can also help them in terms of consulting them to scale those businesses and grow and expand in their business, which means we have holistic approach. We're not just, for example, just help them buy the business and then we leave them. We will be there throughout the process to help them meet their goals.
Absolutely. And the other thing we have that nobody else does is all these people we're talking about moving here and they're buying a business and living here. They need houses. They need a home. And we have 70,000 residential people across the country that can help them with that. So it's really soup to nuts.
I love it. I love it. One of the justifications I give people, hey, even if you trust your countrymen and women in the United States who are not licensed, it's better to work with someone who has a license, who knows the regulations, and also someone who lived in the United States. If you take me, for example, I may not be close to you because you're born and raised here. I came to the United States 2005. I've been here for the last 20 years. And because I've been here 20 years, not just to live, to do business and go school in the United States, I have better perspectives than someone who just visited the United States or someone who have been coming back and forth as a visitor. That's why when we serve our clients, not only we just help them in business, but also we can help them understand the culture, understand some expectations, especially when they buy the business, they need to know how the corporate culture works. They are from another culture. They may not understand the corporate culture in the United States, the culture in the industry where they want to invest. And we could help them, give them some tips, which means even if we're business brokers, we have so many ways we can support them if they want to work with us.
Absolutely.
Before we close, really, these are very helpful for people who are interested to consider EB-5 investors visa. Before we close, do you have any last minute or final advice or comment or recommendations to people who are interested?
I do. I don't want to go too far into the weeds and give a lot of hard numbers and have people misunderstand. We'd much rather have them contact us, and you've got all the information there, and have a conversation. And if they're interested in moving here, there's multiple ways, and we could begin the process.
I love it. I love it. Reach out to me or Tom. We would love to arrange a Zoom chat. We will answer your questions, and also we will support you, giving you resources that are going to help you and, of course, create connections for you. So reach out. Don't hesitate. We would love to help you. Tom, where people can find you?
Businessacquisition.com. The word business, the word acquisition.com. Tom at Business Acquisition.
All right. Thank you, Tom, for coming and explaining this. I know we have also other resources that are coming to help people to consider EB-5 visa. I appreciate you for coming, and I look forward to bring you again with other topics. All of you who watched us live, and also those of you who are going to watch this replay, I want to appreciate you for coming here, for watching. If you have any question in the areas of EB-5 investors visa or anything else in regard to business brokerage, me and Tom, we are always available. Reach out. If you have also any comments, suggestions, or any recommendations that you have, who we should invite to this podcast, what kind of topics we should cover, we appreciate you. We also appreciate you if you like, comment, and also share to people who may benefit, especially if you have relatives, friends, and colleagues who are investors. This is a powerful video, powerful conversation you may not get anywhere else. And we appreciate you for sharing that. Thank you very much for watching, and have a good day. Thank you.